Yes, yes, y'all. All right. Now, first and foremost, before I begin, I want to give a special congratulations to Brittney Griner for being free from from Russian authorities and now being home. So, a lot of you guys already know that a WNBA star, Brittney Griner, is free from a Russian prison in which she was held in custody ever since February of 2022. And yesterday, which would be Thursday, December 8th, 2022, Brittney Griner was officially free as the United States of America and Russia both agreed on a prisoner swap in which the star athlete was exchanged for a Russian arms dealer named Viktor Bout, who was in the middle of a 25-year prison sentence in the United States, right? So a lot of people have a lot of things to say about this situation. A lot of people have a lot of opinions, right? But my opinion is this. Told you so. I told you so. I remember I made a video last month pertaining to this topic in which I told you guys that Brittney Griner, who was in the middle of serving 10 years in a Russian prison, was not going to serve the full 10 years, and she was going to be free via a prison swap between the United States and Russia. So I told you this. I told you this. Lucy, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to answering that question, Lucy. I'm going to get to answering that question. Yeah, AO. Yeah, you're right, AO. AO. The thing is, AO, is that you know a lot of dudes in this space are some no pussy getting niggas who just want to see any so-called black female suffer and be in prison. You know, that's what it is. A lot of these motherfuckers are miserable because they get no pussy and shit like that. So their frustration not getting any pussy got them, having these things to say about Brittney Griner and shit like that, right? But Lucy, you ask a good question, and I'm going to get to that. Right? Ask a very good question. But anyhow, going back to what I was saying, right? I told you guys this last month. So this should be no surprise. The only surprise should be that this prison swap occurred fairly quickly. It occurred fairly quickly, sooner than I thought. Because I thought that Brittney Griner was going to spend at least a good year or two before the prison swap was official. But it happened relatively quickly. And a large part is due to the fact that President Joe Biden faced a lot of pressure from the American people to do this prison exchange between Brittney Griner and this Russian arms dealer named Viktor Bout. Okay? A lot of people think his last name is pronounced Bout because Victor Bout's name is spelled Bout, but it's pronounced as Boot. But anyhow, going on, right? That's why I'm saying Viktor Bout. But going on, right? Like I said, President Joe Biden faced a lot of pressure from the American people, and especially from Hollywood. So when Hollywood gets involved and puts pressure on politicians will comply. That's how it is. And the thing is, like I told you guys last month when I made a video pertaining to this was Russia's strategy the whole time. Russia purposely, although Brittney Griner did break Russian law, yes, but Russia purposely gave Brittney Griner the maximum sentence that they could give for quote unquote for having for having cannabis oil substances, right? And they used that as a strategy in order to force the US or in order to get the American people to put pressure on the United States government to agree to a prisoner swap between that Russian arms dealer, Viktor Bout, and Brittney Griner. This was Russia's plan all along, and it worked. And it worked. See, Russia really didn't give a fuck about, you know, Brittney Griner actually having cannabis oil. You think they give a fuck about that? That was Russia's whole strategy. See, but America had a counter strategy, which did not work. And their counter strategy was to utilize American media to use Brittney Griner's situation in Russia to further vilify the Russian government, as Russia was in war with the U.S. ally, which is Ukraine. And in war, there's also not only a physical war, but there's also propaganda war. So the United States was trying to use Brittney Griner's situation as a form of propaganda to further vilify the Russian government in front of the international world. And that did not work in the United States' favor. So I'm trying to show you guys, once again, I'm trying to show you guys the political chess game that was being played between the United States and Russia when it comes to Brittney Griner's situation, because both countries was using Brittney Griner as a pawn for their own agenda. That was it. That was it. Brittney Griner was just a pawn to a political chessboard between the United States and Russia. And I've been saying that ever since I made my first video pertaining to this topic. And the thing is that a lot of people within this part of YouTube don't even realize that, or at least are not talking about that. What they talking about, some dumbass shit, some low-level type shit, talking about, oh, she broke the law, she should have been in jail, blah, 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 blah. I mean, why don't you be more intelligent when speaking about this topic? Speak about this topic from the actual political level that it really was, because this was nothing but political chess. That's it. I think somebody on my last video made up that terminology. I like that terminology. Somebody said political chess. That's all it was. And I told you guys this. This is why I'm not shocked at this, because I knew this was going to happen. I told you guys this was going to happen. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see this shit happening. It doesn't. But going back to Lucy's question, because Lucy in the chat asked me this question. She said, do I believe this was a fair exchange? No, I don't. I don't believe it was a fair exchange. Because you're talking about Viktor Bout, who actually, if you read about Viktor Bout, the film called Lord of War, if you guys remember that film featuring Nicolas Cage, it came out in 2005. That film was partially based on the life of Viktor Bout. Viktor Bout was a arms dealer. When I'm talking Viktor Bout against you niggas, Viktor Bout was the person that the United States government exchanged for Brittney Griner in order for Brittney Griner to be free from Russian prison, right? So Viktor Bout had a history of arming rogue governments and quote-unquote terrorist organizations with weapons that was used to get millions of people killed. So yeah. Or no, it was not a fair exchange, because you're talking about a guy that was responsible for killing potentially millions of people by arming the wrong groups of people in exchange for someone who was only guilty of having cannabis oil. Those two, it was not a fair exchange. So Russia won that trade. But you guys got to understand something. It doesn't matter if it was not a fair exchange, because you know why? Because Brittney Griner is a celebrity. And the thing is that America care more for their celebrities than anything else on this earth. You guys know that. America care for their celebrities more than they care for their own fucking children. America care for their celebrities more than they care about their own mama, their own daddy, their own dead relatives, their own dead homies. Because of that, and Russia knows that. So because of that, because of Brittney Griner's status in America or in the world, you know, that was going her status and the fact that she was held in prison was going to get worldwide attention, and enough attention to the American people to the point that the American people would put pressure upon the American government to find any way possible to free Brittney Griner. Russia knew that, and Russia utilized that to their advantage. They knew that Brittney Griner was a celebrity or is a celebrity. So therefore, whatever happens to celebrities is going to get a wider attention from the people, especially the American people, than any other person. So no, it was not a fair exchange, but you got to understand this in this society. Status means a lot. So because of Brittney Griner's status, this situation received a lot of attention. Because trust and believe, if Brittney Griner was not a celebrity, if she was just a regular, average, everyday American citizen like you and I, and was caught with these substances in Russia, she would have served the full 10 years, right? And nobody would have given a shit about it. Just like this U.S. Marine that's been in the Russian prison ever since 2018. What's his name? Paul Whelan. Paul Whelan is not a celebrity, so nobody gives a fuck about that motherfucker. He's not a celebrity. So America don't give a fuck about him. He's been in a Russian prison for like 4 years now for a crime that he denies because he's been accused of spying. He's been accused of, of going to Russia and spying for the American government, in which Paul Whelan, even to this day, have denied. But guess what? America, for the most part, never knew about this situation until this Brittney Griner situation. Because you know why? Because Paul Whelan is not a celebrity, and nobody gives a fuck about people who are not celebrities. All right? So when you got these Trump supporters in this side of YouTube that want to sit there and talk all this bullshit, talking about, oh, well, they want to shame Joe Biden, talking about, well, you see what Joe Biden did? Joe Biden chose to do a prisoner swap with the basketball player instead of former U.S. Marine and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool. If you want to use that to criticize Joe Biden, fair enough. But understand this: the former U.S. Marine has been in Russian custody ever since 2018. And who was president at that time? Donald Trump. And guess what? And Donald Trump totally ignored and did not even give a fuck about having a prisoner swap between Viktor Bout or Paul Whelan. All right. So if you're going to criticize, and I'm talking about to you fake Trump fans, right? If you're going to criticize Joe Biden for not doing the prisoner swap to get Paul Whelan out of jail, likewise, you must also criticize Donald Trump for not doing the same thing either, especially when Paul Whelan was in Russian custody ever since the Trump administration. As a matter of fact, right? A member, let me see, what was this guy's name? As a matter of fact, a member of Trump's administration actually went out in the public and stated how Donald Trump ignored Paul Whelan when he heard news that Paul Whelan was in prison in Russia. All right? a former national security advisor underneath the Donald Trump administration named John Bolton went out and talked about that. All right. So if you're going to criticize Joe Biden for not utilizing the prisoner swap to get the former U.S. Marine out of that Russian prison, likewise, you must also criticize your daddy Trump for the same thing, because even he refused to do the prisoner swap to get that former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan out of prison. Main reason why is because he was buddies. Well, he is buddies with Vladimir Putin, and probably was afraid to be in danger of burning bridges with Vladimir Putin if he actually asked for a prisoner swap. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. See, Biden was okay when it comes to this situation. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if he didn't free Brittney Griner out of prison, it would be very bad for him and his image. And it'll be very bad for anyone within his administration that wants to move forward in their political careers. Kamala Harris. All right. Yeah. That's true. That's true, Jersey Ham. That's true. That's true. That's true. As a matter of fact, hold on for a minute. I got an article here. I'm going to post the link to this article in the chat, right? It's from the Independent, where once again, Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, exposed the fact that Trump ignored the whole situation with Paul Whelan, I mean, and didn't even give a fuck about him being in prison. Therefore, Trump, because once again, that former U.S. Marine, Paul Whelan, who's in Russian custody, have been in Russian custody ever since the Trump administration. And Donald Trump knew about it, but ignored even thinking of having a prisoner swap to get Paul Whelan back to the United States. All right. But going back to what I was saying, right, about celebrity status. Yeah. Brittney Griner's celebrity status gave this situation worldwide attention, and especially gave attention in America, where Brittney Griner has so much fans back home, right? To the point of the fact that it put pressure on the United States government to do whatever it takes to bring Brittney Griner back home. And if Joe Biden did not do anything about it, it would have looked bad on his political career. It would have reduced the chances of him possibly being reelected, because Joe Biden, made hints of running for reelection. And if he did not do anything about this Brittney Griner situation, it would have reduced any chances of him potentially being reelected for president. So he had to do something quick. And not only that, but you got to understand too, the NBA one of the top-notch professional sports leagues, not only in America or in the world, also placed pressure on the president of the United States to do something about it. That means a lot. But once again, this was a whole strategy that was concocted by the Russian government in hopes for them to get this Russian arms dealer out of U.S. prison named Viktor Bout. Especially now when Russia is in the middle of this war with Ukraine and getting their asses kicked, they're probably hoping to receive this arms dealer back in Russian hands in order for this Russian arms dealer to possibly hook Putin up with some connections to get some weapons to try to gain, that's my theory. That's my theory. To get some weapons in order for Russia could have some sort of leverage in this war that they're having with Ukraine. Because if you're paying attention to this war between Russia and the Ukraine is whooping ass. Surprisingly, the Ukraine is whooping ass, partially due to the United States, who is providing the Ukraine with the weapons and the money for the Ukrainian military to have enough arms to stand against Russia. So you got to understand, these are all just political ploys. That's it. All these things, this whole situation was just a big game between the U.S. and Russia. And unfortunately, within this game, a person like Brittney Griner spent almost a year in prison and was in danger of serving a whole decade in prison for what? For some goddamn few cartridges of cannabis oil or hashish oil. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a believer that one must follow the law of the land, right? And I felt that, and I stated this, and I felt that what Brittney Griner did was stupid on her part, for her to go to another country and have possession of something that's illegal in that country, right? But I believe that was dumb on her part, because you got to be smart. If you're in another country, especially in a country that you're not a citizen of, you have a responsibility. You definitely have a responsibility of following the laws of that country, especially when you're not a citizen of that country. But what I also believe too is that when it comes to someone committing a crime or being found guilty of committing a crime, the punishment, the severity of the punishment must match the severity of the crime. And I believe that the severity or the level of punishment that Russia gave to Brittney Griner was unfair. Yes, Brittney Griner deserved some punishment for her having substances that's illegal in that country. But once again, the level of punishment must match the level of the crime that she did, and serving a full decade for just having no substances is not a fair level for the level of crime that she committed. But at the same time, I also realized that Russia purposely gave her the maximum amount of time in prison for that crime as part of their strategy. To get her fans back in America to become so worried and so concerned about what would happen to Brittney Griner, to the point of fact that they'll put more pressure on the United States to free Brittney Griner by any means necessary, thus putting the United States in a position to have no choice but to agree on a prisoner swap between Russia and the United States in order for Russia to get Viktor Bout back. This was all a strategy by Russia for them to get She asked me, do you think she'll get in trouble again? Well, do I think she'll get in trouble again? I don't think so. But if she does, she's a jackass. She asked me, she as in Brittney Griner. You know, I don't think Brittney Griner would get in trouble again as far as that is concerned, because anybody that went through something like that should be wise enough to learn their lesson. Now, my mic is not off. It was just the connection. My mic is not off. The connection was not good. My mic is on. Yeah. But last month, once again, going back to the video I made pertaining to this topic last month, I made another prediction. I made another couple of predictions, which is that I've been good all the time, Azure Saint. But the other prediction that I've been able to make, well, that I did make, in which I stand on that prediction, is that watch the movie deals and book deals that Brittney Griner will receive. She's going to receive a book deal. She's going to receive a movie deal. Watch, it's going to be a movie and a documentary done about her time she spent in Russia. And not only that, in the upcoming WNBA season which will be in the summer of 2000, which will begin in the summer of 2023. Watch how the WNBA will market the entire season as this Welcome Back Brittney Griner tour, where they'll market their whole season around Brittney Griner's return to the WNBA. And they'll use that as a way to, of course, hopefully for the WNBA to hopefully sell more tickets, and for so the WNBA could actually boost their television ratings, right? So they'll use controversy as a way to market their upcoming WNBA season. See, and if anybody knows anything about marketing, is that controversy sells. And this has been a controversial situation. So controversy sells. And don't forget, get ready for Brittney Griner to get more endorsements. Because we live in this society, in this fake woke society, right? We live in this fake woke society. So thus you got a lot of corporations that want to hop on this fake woke bandwagon in order for them to be able to sell products. Why do you think former NFL player Colin Kaepernick received an $85 million endorsement deal from Nike, even though he haven't played professional sports in a couple of years? So don't be surprised if a couple of companies give Brittney Griner an endorsement deal. You know what I'm saying? Don't be surprised if there's a movie made about her life, her experience in Russia. Don't be surprised if she, come out with a book talking about her experience in Russia at that time. Don't be surprised within a few years if a documentary comes out talking about her experience in Russia at that time. And once again, don't be surprised if, like I said before, if the WNBA markets their upcoming season, which will start in the summer of 2023, as the return of Brittney, and use that to boost TV ratings and boost ticket sales for the WNBA games. Because once again, controversy sells. A controversy like this would have a lot of people watching WNBA games for once in their lives to be curious to see if Brittney Griner still got it in her, and still have got it in her to be a dominant basketball player. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See, you got a surprise about all this shit, not me. Not me. Well, Renaissance man, I know you was asking Azure Saint that question. I don't know if it was medically prescribed to her, but whether it was or it wasn't, the fact of the matter is, it was illegal. Though those cartridges, those hashish oil cartridges, was illegal in Russia. So hey, you know, well, Renaissance man, to be balanced, right? To be balanced, it is legal in Russia for someone to serve the maximum of 10 years in prison to have these substances. Technically speaking, it is legal, but at the same time, Renaissance man, you are correct. This was all political. This was all political. All this was political. But I'm happy for her. I'm happy that she made it back home. I'm happy for her. Like I said, I do believe that Brittney Griner did deserve to suffer the consequences of having substances that was illegal in that country, but she did not deserve to have a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Even though technically speaking, it's legal in Russia to do that. But I'm to the belief once again that when it comes to someone committing a crime, the level of punishment must match the level of the crime. And I don't think that 10 years in prison matches the level of the crime that Brittney Griner did. So I'm happy that she's free, and I feel bad for Paul Whelan and her family. Excuse me, and his family. I'm sorry. I feel bad for Paul Whelan and his family. I do hope that that the United States government could find some way for Paul Whelan to make it back home also. And that would be good for the Biden administration. Even though I'm not a Joe Biden fan, but it would look good on Biden's record if he succeeded in bringing both Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan home. If that happens, boy, that would totally boost Joe Biden's reputation. Yeah, you're right about that, Renaissance man. I can't argue with you on that. He said, Renaissance man said to be mindful when I agree with you to be mindful when traveling out of the country. I just don't like the narrative that was painted about her being arrogant or her doing it on purpose. Exactly. That's true. It's mainly the right pushing that. Yeah. Yeah, Renaissance man, you are correct. It's mainly the right that was pushing that narrative of her being arrogant and bringing these substances to Russia on purpose, and her being arrogant. And you know, a lot of these, a lot of the so-called black folks in this space that was preaching that same narrative. These guys are just a bunch of jackasses. They don't even realize that they're adopting talking points from a group of people that hate they black asses. That's what kills me about a lot of so-called black males in this space. It's like they adopt talking points from the same group of people that hate they black asses. And, you know, Hey, you know what I'm saying? They adopt all these dumbass talking points from the same group of racist individuals that hate they dumbasses. And a lot of these talking points that they adopt from these racists are used to try to degrade so-called black people and to try to justify the mistreatment of so-called black people. But yet these dumbass niggas adopt these same talking points also. And a lot of that is due to their bitterness at the fact that they feel that they have a hard time getting some pussy from the average so-called black female. You know, it's so damn dumb. It's so twisted. Yeah, but Judge Hammer, you do know both the right, both the right have been guilty of doing that too. Both the right and the left have been guilty of doing that also. You know, man. And then and oh, and you know, okay, you know, another a narrative that will be pushed as a result of this whole Brittney Griner situation is these feminists talking about how WNBA players deserve equal pay or just as much payment as NBA players, or else you're going to have a situation like Brittney Griner. If you want to this is going to give those who who believe in this talking point more leverage to preach that ridiculous talking point. And they're going to use this, they're going to turn around and say, hey, if you want to avoid another Brittney Griner situation, that is necessary for female athletes in the United States to be paid the same salary as male athletes. Because you know the whole story. Brittney Griner was there in Russia in the first place in order to play basketball out in Russia. You know, because during the during the WNBA offseason, which is in the wintertime, a lot of WNBA players go overseas to play basketball in order to make more money, right? Since WNBA players don't make as much money, well, in comparison to NBA players, they actually make more money playing basketball overseas, right? So, once again, the feminists will use that and say, well, hey, if WNBA players are paid the same salary as NBA players, there'll be no reason for them to go overseas to play basketball. Thus, it would avoid another Brittney Griner situation. Thus, ignoring the fact that it wasn't Brittney Griner playing basketball overseas that got her in Russian prison. It was Brittney Griner having possession of substances that was illegal in that country. But nonetheless, a lot of people will try to use Brittney Griner's situation to try to convince the world that female athletes deserve the same pay as male athletes. Even though male athletes are more successful in actually selling their brand than female athletes. Well, I'll say male or NBA players are more successful in selling their brand than WNBA players. Even though the NBA have been around for 75 years, well now 76 years, and spent have spent 3/4 of a century marketing their brand and making it a worldwide brand in comparison to the WNBA that have been around for like only 20 something years and have been unsuccessful in marketing their brand to the world. But you know, these feminists are going to ignore all of that. They're going to ignore the business side and just trying to use the whole Brittney Griner situation as a way to try to scare or shame America, to try to give WNBA, to try to convince people that it's fair that WNBA players receive the same salary as NBA players, even though logically speaking that cannot happen. The NBA, the NBA sells way more tickets, they sell way more merchandise, and they have way larger TV rating than WNBA. And not only that, the NBA season is even longer than the WNBA season. Thus, male NBA players play more games, thus deserve more money. NBA players play more games and are able to sell more tickets and boost television ratings than WNBA. So, and it's a business, and in business, if you're able to give more and provide more, likewise, you're going to get more back in return. Exactly. Exactly, Jersey Hammer. Jersey Hammer said, I should watch a Chicago game and see Oprah's fat ass sitting on the Spike Lee type seats at every Chicago Sky game. Right, right. The fact that I don't shows me how much feminists give a shit about the WNBA. Exactly. Exactly. Jersey Ham also said, as much of a fan I am of the WNBA, that talking point is garbage. Phil Barclays Center consistently, like the Nets or so, fill the LA Stadium. I think he meant uh well, formerly known as the Staples Center. But Staples Center got a new name. I forgot that shit. Like the Lakers do, and I will talk. Exactly. 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 Crypto.com arena, yeah. If the LA Sparks could fill up Crypto.com arena as much as the Lakers and the LA Clippers can, then we can talk about equal pay. If the New York Liberty can sell tickets in the Barclays Center just as much as the Brooklyn Nets can, then we can talk about equal pay. If the Chicago Sky can fill up the United Center as much as the Chicago Bulls can, then we can talk about equal pay. Then we could talk about equal pay between NBA and WNBA players. And when WNBA players play an 82 game regular season, just like how NBA players play an 82 game regular season, then we can talk about equal salary and equal pay. You know? And like you said, Jersey Hammer, these same you don't see these same feminists going to these ball games. Listen, because I've been to a well, I've never been to a WNBA game. I wouldn't waste my money on that bullshit. But I've been to a female college basketball game. As a matter of fact, the first women's college basketball game I've ever been to was with Brittney Griner. And that's when I first heard of Brittney Griner. That was back in 2011 in Madison Square Garden when Brittney Griner was still playing for the University of Baylor or Baylor University. I think it was Baylor University playing against St. John's University in the St. John's University women's team in Madison Square Garden. And that's when I first heard of Brittney Griner. As you know, when she was there, I saw her blocking shots like a motherfucker. I was like, who is this big light-skinned chick blocking all them shots? But when I looked in the audience, don't get me wrong, I've seen a few studs in the audience, but guess who I saw in the audience for the most part? I saw mostly males within the audience. So the majority of the people that made up the audience that purchased tickets to this women's college basketball game was mostly males. So you could imagine who's the majority of people that purchase tickets to WNBA games. It'll be mostly males. I'm assuming that. You know? And another talking point that I heard was that so this whole talking point about WNBA players should get the same salary as NBA players, bullshit, right? But another talking point that I heard in regards to this topic is this whole notion. A few people within this side of YouTube is promoting this talking point, talking about that the reason why Brittney Griner was free from prison was because she's a female and that she's a member of the LGBTQ community. You know, because a lot of people want to present this notion that females have it easier than males in this society, and although to a degree, I agree with that, but I don't believe that's the case when it comes to the Brittney Griner situation. The reason why Brittney Griner was able to be free from prison, and the reason why she was able to be chosen to as a result of a prison swap instead of Paul Whelan was because of her celebrity status. Her celebrity status is what gave attention to this whole situation. Her celebrity status is what made the American people put a lot of pressure on President Joe Biden to do whatever it takes to free Brittney Griner out of prison, out of that Russian prison. It was not because she was a female. A lot of people on this side of YouTube always want to present this gynocracy argument when it comes to any decent or good thing that happens to a female. And although I agree that there is a gynocracy that do exist, I'm not going to go as far as to claim that a gynocracy is the reason behind every single thing. I'm more balanced than you niggas. So I'm not going to say that bullshit. What I am going to say is that, once again, this is due to Brittney Griner's celebrity status, and Brittney Griner's celebrity status is the reason why she was able to be free from Russian prison. All right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Jersey Him. I don't even think it was a combination of any of these things. I think it was a celebrity status because let's once again, I said this earlier in this. All right, peace out, Lucy. Peace out. And I said this early in this video. If Brittney Griner was just some everyday regular person, and if she was not a star athlete, if Brittney Griner did not play in the WNBA, if she was just some regular, average, everyday American who got caught in Russia with cannabis oil cartridges or hashish oil, she would have been in prison. She'll be in prison in Russia, and we would not hear about it. The television won't, the mainstream media would not talk about it. The American people would not put any pressure on Joe Biden to do anything about it because we would not know about it nor care about it. Why? Because in this instance, Brittney Griner is not a celebrity. And understand this, in America, we don't care about the regular, average, everyday person. Listen, let's be real. In America, we don't give a flying fuck about the average, everyday individual. We care about celebrities. We care about celebrities. We care about motherfuckers that have way more money than us, that's living a way better life than we do. Okay? We care about them. We don't care about the average everyday motherfucker. Trust me, Brittney Griner could be a female. She could be a member of the LGBT community. That did not matter when it comes to this situation. It was her celebrity status that mattered. You think America give a fuck about some regular everyday, some regular average everyday lesbian that's in prison? No. But if this lesbian happens to be a very famous basketball star, oh yeah, we're gonna at least act like we give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? So no, it was not Brittney Griner's gender that was a factor in her being free from prison. It was not her sexual orientation that was a factor in her being free from prison. It was her celebrity status that was the main factor of her being free from prison. As a matter of fact, it was her celebrity status that made her a target to Russian authorities to use her as a pawn in order for them to try to get, in order for them to finesse America to get Viktor Bout back to Russian hands. This was a chess game that both America and Russia used, and Brittney Griner was in the middle of it. And it was a celebrity status that mattered. Because once again, Russia used Brittney Griner's celebrity status as a way to say, you know what? We're going to keep her in custody. That would cause attention to the world, which would put pressure on the American government to do whatever it takes to free her. Thus will put them in a position where the American government would have no choice but to exchange Viktor Bout for Brittney Griner. And at the same time, the United States used Brittney Griner's celebrity status as a way to try to vilify Russia, to say, look at these bad Russians and what they're doing to Brittney Griner. They're giving her so much jail time for what? Marijuana? Oh my gosh, that's not a big. You shouldn't give her all that time for that. You see, these bad Russians, they're so bad. And guess what? Russia's strategy worked better than American strategy, America's strategy. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You said Brittney Griner has more oppressed labels than Paul Whelan. This is the reason for choosing her first. No, nah. Mm-mm. It was a celebrity status, not quote unquote oppressed labels. Paul Whelan's not a celebrity. Trust me, if Paul Whelan was a professional basketball player in America, if Paul Whelan was a professional football player in America, if Paul Whelan was a top-notch Hollywood star, oh yeah, he would have been, and he was caught and he was arrested in Russia. Guess what? It would have been a prisoner swap for Paul Whelan as a snap of a finger. Okay? It had nothing to do with anybody's gender or sexual orientation. No, not really, Lawrence Guy. Her celebrity status has a lot to do with her playing basketball. Okay, have you guys ever seen Brittney Griner play basketball? Because once again, I've seen Brittney Griner in real life play basketball. I've seen her play back. She's very good. When I saw her play in college, remember, I told you guys this earlier in this stream. I seen Brittney Griner up front play basketball when she was in college back in 2011. I knew right there when I saw her that she was going to be a star in the WNBA. She's a star in the WNBA. Her celebrity status is mainly based upon her being a basketball star. Yeah, Black Girl, she's actually good. Yeah. Didn't she win a WNBA championship? I know she has 2 gold medals. Brittney Griner has 2 gold medals for she played in the U.S. women's team in basketball in the Olympics. Brittney Griner, I think, also won a WNBA Finals, and I think she actually won a national championship when she was in college. She's good. She's a star in the WNBA. So her stardom is what gave attention to this situation. Not her being a female, not her sexual orientation. It's her stardom, her celebrity status. Black girls, the U.S. don't give a fuck about the average everyday black man being in prison. Now, if a black male is a star, is a famous celebrity, then people will give a fuck, or at least pretend to give a fuck. But if it's the average everyday so-called black male going to prison, America don't give a fuck. But America care about their celebrities. So no, I don't buy into this. I don't buy into this nonsensical theory that Brittney Griner's gender and sexual orientation was a factor as to why she was chosen over Paul Whelan to do a prisoner swap. I mean, but Lawrence Guy, the fact of the matter is she's still a star player in the WNBA. She's still a celebrity. I mean, people do watch the WNBA, but not as much. People do watch the WNBA, but not as much as people watch other professional sports. So she is a star. She's alongside the Candace Parkers of the world and all the other stars in WNBA. She is a star. She's a star. Like I said, her celebrity status is the reason why she got chosen over Paul Whelan to do this prisoner swap. But all right, that's all I have to say pertaining to this topic. I'm out of here. Once again, Brittney Griner, welcome home. Russia won this trade. Damn. You got to respect Russia's gangster, though. They won this trade. Now they got an arms dealer back in Russian hands. Damn. See, it could look either way on the part of Joe Biden when it comes to him agreeing to this prisoner swap. It could look good on Joe Biden for some reasons, but on other reasons it could look bad. But you got to respect Russia's gangster, though. You got to respect that shit. Hey, listen, I'm not saying I'm a fan of Russia. I'm an American citizen, okay? I'm an American citizen, but you got to respect it. You got to respect it, dog. Damn. Yeah. Oh, but hold on. For you Trump supporters, let me read this article for you niggas. All right? Hold on. Once again, I'm going to post the link to this article in the chat, right? Let me share this article with you guys before I leave. Because you want to talk so much shit about Joe Biden agreeing to do this prisoner swap, right? And leaving the former U.S. Marine in Russian custody. But guess what? Your boy Trump did the same thing also. This is from The Independent, right? And the article was written today, Friday, December 9th, 2022, written by Rachel Sharp, and it's titled Trump Turned Down Paul Whelan and Viktor Bout Prisoner Swap Years Ago. John Bolton says, Mr. Trump blasted the Biden administration's deal on his Truth Social platform, despite refusing to take action to try to free Mr. Whelan for 2 years of his own presidency. Because remember this. Oh, shit. Let me see. I'll try later. I ain't going to register that shit, man. Okay? Because remember, like I said, Paul Whelan, the former U.S. Marine that's in Russian prison right now, he was arrested in 2018 as the Russian government charged him with spying on Russia. And in 2020, Paul Whelan was found guilty by a Russian court and was sent to a Russian prison for 16 years. So 2018, 2019, 2020, Donald Trump was still president of the United States within these years. But he did not do his it seems like that he didn't make any effort to try to get Paul Whelan out of prison. So if you're going to criticize Joe Biden for not doing his best to free this former U.S. Marine out of prison, you must give that same criticism to Donald Trump also, because Donald Trump had a chance to do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying to not criticize Joe Biden for that. If you're going to criticize Joe Biden for that, fair enough, cool. But be balanced and understand that other presidents could have done the same thing, but chose not chose not to act on that. But let me read this article. It says this. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton has revealed that Donald Trump turned down the chance to secure Paul Whelan's release 2 years ago, despite the former president claiming to be outraged over the Biden administration's deal, which freed Brittney Griner but left the U.S. Marine in Russian custody. Mr. Bolton, who was the National Security Advisor under Mr. Trump for 17 months from 2018 to 2019, told CBS that the Trump administration had the opportunity to trade Mr. Whelan for convicted arms dealer Viktor Bout in 2018. The possibility of a Bout for Whelan trade existed back then, and it wasn't made for very good reasons having to deal with Viktor Bout, he said. Mr. Whelan, a U.S., Canadian, British, and Irish citizen who served in the U.S. Marines from 2003 to 2008, was arrested in Russia in December 2018. Mr. Whelan, now 52, was working as a director of global security and investigations for Borg Warner and made many business trips to Russia over the years. At the time of his arrest, he was attending a friend's wedding. Russian authorities claimed that Mr. Whelan was working as a spy, claims that both Mr. Whelan and U.S. authorities have vehemently denied. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to reread this. Russian authorities claim that Mr. Whelan was working as a spy, claims that both Mr. Whelan and U.S. authorities have vehemently denied. And he has been held behind bars in Russia ever since. In 2020, Mr. Whelan was convicted of espionage offenses and sentenced to 16 years in prison. For the last 4 years, his family and advocates have been urging the U.S. to negotiate his release. While his detention by Russia came during Mr. Trump's presidency, the Republican, who enjoyed a close allegiance with Russian President Vladimir Putin, ignored the matter entirely. Ooh. A review of a public database of Mr. Trump's tweets and public remarks by The Independent revealed that he did not utter Mr. Whelan's name even once during the countless public appearances and media availabilities he participated in when his Oval Office workplace was just steps from the White House briefing room. Mr. Trump's then National Security Advisor. Oh, Basically, what they're saying here is that the Independent, this editorial company that I'm reading from, investigated Trump's tweets on Twitter, and came to find out that during the time that Trump was president, he never tweeted one word about Paul Whelan. But now that Trump is out of office and trying to run back for office, now he want to utter Paul Whelan's name, and he's doing that as a way to try to blast Joe Biden. But I'll continue. Mr. Trump's then National Security Advisor, Mr. Bolton, eventually took a meeting with Mr. Whelan's sister, Elizabeth Whelan, approximately 6 months after his arrest on June 16, 2019. Mr. Bolton later wrote on Twitter that the meeting had been productive and said Russia had produced no evidence that the former Marine had committed any wrongdoing. That meeting marked the only public action from the Trump administration. Even after Mr. Whelan begged for help from the then president in the June 2019 court appearance, Mr. Trump continued to stay silent and failed to bring the issue up in a face-to-face meeting with Mr. Putin. On Thursday, and this is a picture of Paul Whelan, the former U.S. Marine. He's Canadian born, but a U.S. citizen and former U.S. Marine that has been in Russian prison ever since that has been in Russian custody ever since 2018. On Thursday, hopes of Mr. Whelan's imminent release were dashed once again as the U.S. confirmed a prisoner swap had been agreed between Washington and Moscow, exchanging WNBA star Ms. Griner for Bout. Mr. Whelan was originally expected to be part of negotiations with the U.S. seeking to swap both him and Ms. Griner for Bout, but Russia rejected the deal. I actually explained that in my last video pertaining to this topic. Yeah, because the United States, right, initial offer to Russia was a 2-for-1 deal, in which they wanted they agreed that they would give Russia Viktor Bout in exchange for both Paul Whelan and Brittney Griner, and Russia refused. Russia said, "Nah, we're not going to give you two of our prisoners for one of yours." I'll continue reading. So at least you can say on Joe Biden's part, he actually tried to get Paul Whelan. He actually tried to get Paul Whelan out of prison in Russia. I'm not a Biden fan, but I at least have to give it up to him. Despite his own refusal to take action to secure Mr. Whelan's freedom, Mr. Trump blasted the Biden administration's deal on his Truth Social platform and questioned why the Marine was not part of the deal. Why wasn't former Marine Paul Whelan included in this totally one-sided transaction? He would have been let out for asking. He fumed. What a stupid and unpatriotic embarrassment for the USA. Mr. Biden insisted on Thursday that we've not forgotten about Paul Whelan, and vowed to never give up securing his release as the swap divided opinion across the country. Russia is treating Paul's case differently, he said, adding that this was not a choice about which American to release. Mr. Whelan told CNN he was greatly disappointed to learn he was not part of the prisoner swap, saying, "I don't understand why I'm still sitting here." U.S. officials announced on Thursday that Ms. Griner, 32, was finally free from Russian prison after the Biden administration negotiated a prisoner swap with Moscow for notorious arms dealer Viktor Bout. The WNBA star had spent the last 10 months in prison in Russia after being detained at an airport in February for allegedly carrying illegal cannabis oil in her luggage. Footage showed the one-for-one exchange of Ms. Griner and Bout taking place on the tarmac of a runway in the United Arab Emirates on Thursday, following weeks of negotiations between Washington and Moscow. On Friday morning, Ms. Griner officially landed back on U.S. soil for the first time in 10 months. A plane carrying the WNBA star landed at the Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio at around 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time, where she will be examined and receive any necessary medical treatment. Ms. Griner's ordeal began back on February 17th when she was stopped by Russian customs officials while traveling through the Sheremetyevo International Airport in Moscow. The Phoenix Mercury star played basketball in Russia in the WNBA's offseason. She was carrying 2 cartridges for personal use containing just 0.252 grams and 0.45 grams of hash oil, according to court records. The basketball star was taken into custody and charged with large-scale transportation of illegal narcotics, a charge that carries a sentence of up to 10 years in prison. Her detainment was largely regarded as a political move from Moscow, which I've been saying the whole time, coming just days before President Vladimir Putin declared a full-scale war on Ukraine. At her trial in July, Ms. Griner pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. On November 17th, she was moved to a penal colony in Mordovia. Yeah. And because of the harsh cold that she was going through in the penal colony over there, Brittney Griner decided to cut her locks. Because, well, for those of you guys who have locks, you understand. Because I have locks. And when it's very cold and your locks, and you have dreadlocks, and it's exposed to very cold weather, they get easily damaged. And not only that, they get real hard and real stiff. And when wind blows, it could annoy you and itch your skin and stuff like that. So she decided to cut her locks. But yeah. But for those of you that come across these Trump fanatics, that want to utilize this talking point, give them this article. Hello. Jersey Hammer said, you have to admit, any deal Trump could have made with Russia, with Russiagate bullshit, would have been investigated, possible impeachment and Whelan. No, I don't think so. I disagree. I don't think that it would have been a successful impeachment if Donald Trump actually worked on getting Paul Whelan out of Russian prison. I don't think so. I get it with the Russiagate scandal, but I don't think so. It would be investigated, but it would be no evidence of corruption on Trump's part. So, remember, Congress tried to impeach. Actually, Trump was impeached, but but because Senate was mostly Republican, Donald Trump was successful in gaining his presidential seat back. So even then, let's just say if Donald Trump was successful in doing this prison swap and to get Paul Whelan out of Russia and back in American soil, and Trump's political opponents tried to utilize that against Trump and trying to investigate to see if there's any corruption on Trump's part, right? A full-scale impeachment would not be successful because the Senate, which was mostly Republican at that time, would have had Trump's back and would have placed Trump back in his presidential seat anyway. Yeah, which would yeah, it would not have led to his full removal, but another trial in front of Senate would be unsuccessful on the part of Democrats because Trump would still have his presidential seat, and it would still look good on his resume. Now he freed that he freed a a former U.S. military man out of Russian hands. Yeah. But I don't even think, you know what? And I don't even think that would even lead to any form of to any form of hearing in Senate. I don't think so. I don't think Senate would be like, oh well, hey Trump, you freed an American out of Russian prison. That's corrupt. I don't think that would have happened. I don't think that would have happened. But that's all I have to say pertaining to this topic. That's all I have to say pertaining to this topic. Yeah. So once again, welcome home, Brittney Griner. You know, keep your ass out of trouble and be a little bit wiser next time if you plan to leave the country in the future, or even if you're in this country, just be wiser with what type of products you bring anywhere with you, and so forth. Anyhow, peace out. Y'all have a very good night. Oh, good day. Peace. Oh, Toy, you late. Toy, you mad late. Because I'm done with this shit. I'm out.